straight into it. Introduce yourself to everyone listening. Who are you? Where are you? And what do you do?
Hello, my name is Jessi Duley, and I own a company called Burn Cycle, and I live in Portland, Oregon.
Amazing.
And that felt super formal. Just felt really formal. And so, all
That's
right.
okay.
Yes, I'm here.
All
We're
right.
doing it. Mhm.
When did you fall in love with spin?
When I was in, I don't know, I think my early 20s. So I'm dating myself here, but this is going to be like 2001 and 2002. So 1897, 1898. I grew up a ski racer, and so I have really bad knees. But I have so much energy. What is it? You know, we did. What about swearing on here? Because
It's okay.
I'm gonna try.
It's okay.
Okay.
It's totally okay.
Okay. Anyways, I grew up.
I had one guest a few months ago now, and she was like, what can I say on here? And I was like, whatever you want. And she was like, okay, meditating makes me feel like I'm having an orgasm.
Oh,
like, great.
Yeah.
That's okay to say.
Just fucking do it. Peel back the filters, man. It's sick. Okay, so I first got into spin when I was in my very, very early 20s. Actually, I was living in LA in like the early 2000s. And so it was like crunch gym, stuff. And I grew up ski racing. So I had bad knees from just, overusing them in my youth a ton. But I have so much energy, like so much energy, and it's got to go somewhere. If it's not benign, if it doesn't get out, it'll literally metastasize into like anxiety and like it just all the crazy shit. And so I was like, I need an intense workout, but I can't run. And so I found spin, and in LA in like 2004 and 3, it was like epic, crazy, cliche. And then shortly after that, Soul Cycle and Flywheel started, and then I tried those out in a little false bravado. I was like, I can do that. I can do this.
Wow.
There was a whole bunch of time in between there and a whole other career prior to that. But yeah, I've always loved it. I love anything with, like, Vegas is my baseline. So I'd really like it if my workouts could match that. There's like something about a really, theoretically speaking, and not to sound too woo-woo, but I'm a very small framed woman, and it's amazing to feel like you can step into your power in a really epic workout.
Mm-hmm.
And then also it's adult recess. Like, I don't trust adults that don't have an outlet and don't want to play, like haven't figured out that they need to have a little fucking fun.
Yeah.
You're like, wow, who loves to hang out with you? People that take themselves too seriously. Like, that it's like, because they just can't. And so you're like, you should try exercising. Anyways, I'm off on a tangent. But.
So where did you find super fun, and like, where did you find great spin classes before the spin boom? Because that's interesting to me. Like, I was always under the impression that, it was like Soul Cycle really kind of, it made spin fun again and cool again. So like, what were you finding before that?
I love this because it's like, again, I'm really lean. I just turned 40, so I'm really leaning into the middle age. Perpetually 27. My orthopedic surgeon would say otherwise, but perpetually 27 in my heart. So spin prior to Soul Cycle and all that was like these crazy instructors. They're just fucking insane. They were just crazy, and they would wear bandanas. Like, you've probably seen the cliche old school pictures of them, like the Dan Cortez. I'm like so dating myself with this, like old school, tie it back. And then it was basically like, I think some of them that were doing aerobics would like transition into spin, and I just fucking love it when somebody sends it. So I loved an instructor that would just go for it and put on a show. And so it was like crunch gyms, 24-hour fitnesses, like that's where it was happening. And the rooms were dark back then. Like, they was all, they did it to the beat. Like, it was, I think Soul Cycle and Flywheel just did such an amazing job at branding it and making it like a thing and like a ritual. Cause Johnny G in like the 90s, that was, it was basically just like a little bit, an extended version of that still in the early 2000s and stuff.
Yeah. So, okay. So you're taking classes at like Crunch and 24-hour fitness.
Yeah.
When was the moment that you were like, I can do this and I want to do this and I'm going to do it?
Oh, not like until 10 years later. So I had a whole career in there. I lived in LA and I worked my way up in production, and then I moved. I had a quarter life crisis, moved to Nepal, did the whole thing over there for a while. I always say this before: eat, pray, love. And then moved back to Portland, got back into production here, as we actually have a pretty incredible production community here. And then I was like, Portland, where are the intense workouts? Because the thing about Portland is it's very mild. Like it's never too hot, it's never too cold. The weather's lovely. Everybody lets you merge on the freeway. Like you're just a bunch of mild people here, you know. And I'm kind of, you know, I don't know. It's a little
Not that.
not that. I've been called a lot of things. Mild has never been one of them. And so I was like, this is so great. There's tons of yoga here. Lovely. Getting a acai bowl on every corner. Where is like the intense workouts? And at that point, there was only a couple CrossFit gyms. There was like one spinning studio, but it was really dedicated to simulation riding. And so, which is like for Portlanders, you know, we don't even, it's a sin to have an umbrella. Like we will go outside in the rain or the snow. So we will ride our bikes in the rain or the snow. So
Yeah.
simulation riding inside wasn't really my jam at all, nor was I think really Portland's. And so um, I went, actually I went on this bachelorette party and there was 14 women, all different socioeconomic sort of situations, different body types. And they lived geographically all in different places, but they all drove to Flywheel in Seattle. And I was like, wait, what? And
Mm.
then all of a sudden it was like this moment where I was like, wait, I love production, but I wanted to do something more. And at one time a mentor had said, if you had one extra hour in a day, what do you do? And I was like, I move. I just move. I got to move. And
Mhm.
usually like to do it with people. And so I was like, I think I could I think I could do this. And I caveat that with my parents are entrepreneurs. My husband is an entrepreneur. So it wasn't a scary thing for me to start it. It was always going to happen. I did
Mhm.
my best at having a boss
Mhm.
and having another job, but it was always going to happen. And so then I on the flight home, I wrote a business plan, and that was in December 4th, and we had a space by January 21st.
Wow.
And I also found out I was pregnant in January. So
Get out.
there's a lot of layers to it. No, and so we
When did you
opened.
quit your full-time job?
I left in June
Okay.
of 2013, and then we opened in September of 2013.
Okay.
My first daughter, my only daughter, but my first kid was born in August. So we just opened 3 weeks after she was born.
Oh
And
my God.
it was so like highly recommended not doing that. However, for me, it was such an important part of this whole journey and story because um, I just am a small person, genetically speaking, and so to go into this, to step into this and say, I want to sell this physical fitness to my city, but I can't physically do it, and I was 50 something pounds heavier than I'd ever been. I'm human, but at the same time, you're humiliated because you can't do the thing, and I'm supposed to be the boss and out front and cheering this on. This was my idea; it's supposed to work, and I can't do it. And it was so humbling in such an important way that we have never, since its inception, we have never talked about results, never talked about the body. We don't do any of this to be a smaller size because frankly, there's a lot of skinny assholes in this world, and that's not what we're here to do. It was such a critical piece of this whole puzzle because it was so much about mental health and so much
Yeah.
about seeing what I was capable of and what I could do and being proud of myself, and such a huge moment of stepping back into self-worth and stuff like that.
Mhm.
And not, again, not because I'm losing weight or but because I dedicated myself to something and I created an outlet for something. And I think most of the time, especially women, when we feel like we've lost our power, it's because we're not taking care of ourselves.
Mhm.
And so to know that I can always step into my power, and that means taking care of myself, that those two are very important to each other. It was, it also was really interesting because I think you could, when you have never had a baby and you've never had a business, it's going to be very easy um, to let the pressure get to you and just collapse. And I mean, it's inevitable. This part of the human experience, but because I had both happening at the same time, like all I want to do is get under the covers and like watch The Notebook. And then there's a tiny human that needs to be fed, and like someone has to unlock the studio. And you're like,
Yeah.
well, fuck, here we are. We're good for a minute. And then you just gotta like put your big girl pants on and do the damn thing. So it was almost like I didn't have any margin for letting that stuff really get me down. I mean, it did
Mhm.
certain times, but anyways,
Yeah.
yeah. So
What
that's
a cool lesson though, that like you had just given birth and you were, but like, what a cool thing that like you just
Mhm.
had to, it was solely built on your energy then carrying through. Like there was
Yeah.
no like, just no, what's the word I'm looking for? Like no like aesthetic like misconceptions. It was just all
Yeah.
based on your energy carrying the business.
It was so I started it with two of my closest friends who actually are still with me. They still teach with me, and it was amazing because it was sort of like this trifecta that polished it into what it is. Because if it would be just me, it would be one thing. If it was just one of them or just the other one, it'd be that. But because we counterbalance in a really beautiful way, and I mean, I have certain skills and a lot of opportunities, but I do know one thing, that you just got to surround yourself with people smarter than you. And that is what I did. And so we did this, and we have this great working relationship, and that their input, like I said, the counter way we counterbalance each other polishes it. It's not confrontation or friction or like disagreements. It's really a polishing that turns something into what Burn Cycle is today. And so I was like front of the house and just like warm welcome to everyone. That's my jam. And this one taught, and that one was helping build community and teaching. And so yeah, it was all perfect. It was really
Yeah.
fucking hard, but it was all exactly how it was meant to be. And so it came to be this just incredible thing. So
Yeah. All right. So this was
mhm.
2013, right?
Yes,
Okay.
correct.
So we're now 2022.
Is
Walk
that
me
what year it
through,
is? Okay, great. I wasn't sure. Okay. Good
walk
God.
me through the
Time and space.
last 9 years and the how quickly you went to
Oh,
four
yeah.
studios, was it
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
Walk me through when did it happen that you were like, okay, I can do this with another studio, or what did that look like for you?
Yeah. So the first studio, I mean, it just blew up. And we were not the first spinning studio in Portland. I think we had something special. I think we have. Obviously, I'm biased, but we hit our 2015 projections in February of 2014. And I'm someone that, obviously I'm not doing this for money. If I wanted to be rich, I'd be in tech or finance. So I'm like, let's build something. So I'm like, put all of it back in, put all of it. So we got more bikes. And then I'm like, let's do another studio in the burbs. And so we opened our second studio in 2015 in a suburb of Portland. And it was fucking amazing. It took off too. And I want to say the reason to why I felt like I could grow this was not because of like business savviness or acumen. It was because the people I was doing it with, and we were so tight, and we locked arms, and we were just like, we're gonna fucking do, let's do this. And he's seventh company a couple years ago,
Wow.
but never and never like, I'm going to start a business and sell it. From the time we were little kids, we have always known that he builds people that build a business, and he
Mm,
builds these communities, and they're just incredible. And the stuff he does for these people, I mean, it's just part of who we are and how we were raised. And so his companies were our families. And he just brought people in. And so I didn't know any other way of how you run a business. And so we started the community with the team. And in the 9 years, I will say, whenever anything is off, when business isn't working, sales isn't working, something's off, if I go back to the team, everybody else, pull all the levers to get all the marketing and to get the sales techniques and this and that, and I'm like, no, pause it all. I'm going in with the team right now. And I will spend weeks just connecting and talking through and hearing what they have to say, and then it starts to swirl again, and it comes back. And so I
mhm,
would say everything that I do and everything that I was able to do is all because of the people I was able to do it with.
mhm.
It's not, the opportunities or the money or the smarts or the stats or the success of that. It all boils back down to us taking care of each other.
Yeah.
Anyways, and so we opened in 2015 our second location. It blew up, same thing. And then I set my sights on Seattle, because that's where I was originally born, but spent just a little bit of time up there. And I went to college up there. So I thought, oh, barrier for entry is going to be a little bit lower. I know people up here. And the thing is when you have a successful business, the second it's successful, everybody starts asking you, when are you going to open a second location?
Mm.
Everybody. I mean, from clients to the fucking mailman. There's this guy at my grocery store who's always like, oh, you got to open another location. I'm like, Ted, let it breathe, man. I'm tired. But like, it's just ingrained in people that bigger is better. And,
Yeah.
and in the entrepreneurial world, and Portland has such a dope entrepreneurial community, but even of like makers and creators and curators, but even all of us talk about how we have to have better boundaries around scaling, because it's just like scaling is sexy, boom, and they just pound that into you. And so, and
Mm.
I drank the Kool-Aid, and so I'm like, let's fucking do it. Let's go to Seattle. Well, see, I decided I was going to go to Seattle at the same time Amazon was like taking over Seattle, and Facebook,
Oh.
this and that. So I was a very small fish in a very big pond, trying to get a lease, trying to get build outs. And for what we were doing in Portland, you can build out a studio down here for a fraction of what we could build it out up there. So here I find these things. By the time I found my location, by the time I actually opened in Seattle, was 2 years later, 2 full years. I didn't have to
Wow.
pay rent that whole time to do that stuff, and that was just so much of like the city scaling. And so give that context, because when the city of Seattle scaled, that the culture changed. And so then when I go to open in the Seattle that I knew, it's not the same Seattle. It is very much a city of transplants that
Yeah.
want corporate, want what's easy, want efficiency. They're in and out of their jobs. They're making a lot of lateral movements to tech places.
Mm.
And there were very few parts, I think, of the city left that had like really locally owned, like culture driven, which is kind of our jam, things going for them. And so
Mhm.
our runway for success down here in Portland was very different, because people in Portland really get behind mission driven, values driven companies. They get behind entrepreneurs and like people with
Yeah.
energy. And in Seattle, man, we were just like, it's such a visual of like the tiny mouse jumping with the
Yeah.
elephants. And so our runway up there was so much longer. And even though it's only 3 hours
Wow.
away, having a business in a different state with all different tax setups and structures
Mm.
and different everything, in a different city with a completely different mentality. I mean, it was insane. And so people had told me, hey, it's going to be 15, 16 months and you'll hockey stick. And I'm like, say that one more time. How many months? So it cost us so much more. And I will humbly say I got way too big for my britches, and opened very large studios and opened them very close together. So I opened my first studio on Capitol Hill. It was a 50 bike studio, and it was fucking gorgeous. And then 6 months later, I opened a studio in Ballard. Each of those being $1 million build out. And
Wow.
it was like, just light my money on fire. It was, I mean, they were worth it. They were amazing. And the teams that we built up there were incredible, and the community was incredible. But for the first time, I had this I was lucky enough that the city of Portland got behind what we were doing so quickly. And because it was smaller, we could give everything we had. But being
Mhm.
studios 3 and 4, I still had studios 1 and 2 that needed my capacity and part of me. And I'm not the best at not going all in.
Mhm.
And also, I should say, we scaled 500% in 5 years. And in those same 5 years,
Wow.
I also had 3 children.
Oh my
So there was like a
god.
lot happening.
Oh my
um,
god.
it's like ambition is a great thing until it's not. And so getting it to Seattle, I mean, I felt like I was giving everything I could, but it wasn't enough.
Mhm.
And so I I relocated it, just a fucking unicorn of an operations human from LA up to Portland, to help me. She came from the pedigree of 24-hour fitness to help me like properly scale, because here I thought, if we have the passion and we have the brand and we have this, and then you get up there and you're like, wait, what are you guys doing? Wait, that's not how we do it. Oh, that's
Mhm.
folklore. Oh, processes, which are like just my worst fucking nightmares, like a
Yeah.
binder of typed up shit.
Yeah.
Um, and this woman came in and just helped us so much, but it definitely went from being like a feelings-based company to then being like a big company with like 100 employees. And everybody felt that shift, and it was really good. It was, people had a lot of clarity and there was consistency. And like I said, she is a next level human that like I never would have survived without her. And so we got it running and we're at a click and we're like, okay, we can do this. And then I was like, wow, I've scaled and I fucking hate this. I hate this. I can't, um, I can't intentionally connect with these humans in the way that I want to. And we
Mhm.
used to never miss a promotion, an engagement, a birthday, a baby being born, a divorce, like you name it, we were like there. And then we had to
Mhm.
systemize this. And then for me, the connection for me came with all the instructors and like building up these humans and I couldn't, I had to find ways to systemize it, but I couldn't. It it just started to become such a drain that all of a sudden I found myself being incredibly resentful of these incredible humans, that it was like a
Yeah.
gift to be in their presence, because
Yeah.
who doesn't want like level 10s that motivate you and inspire you and do this. And then here I'm like constantly in debt, emotional debt,
Mm.
because I feel like they're
Mhm.
giving so much, even though it's a job and they're paying. I can't give them enough of myself. And so I don't know.
Mhm.
It's all an interesting journey. And in there, we also opened a side. We opened something called the Lab on the east side of Portland, which was a strength training gym. And I learned
Oh.
very quickly that I was out of my lane, because it turns out with strength training, you have to talk about results. Like you can't like be like, just come in, it'll be great. And
You'll
I'm like,
zone out and it'll be so
wait,
fun.
wait. So like, oh fuck, okay. And I really wanted it for myself. It was like solely for me. I was like, I really want really fun strength training workouts where I don't want to have to go to CrossFit and like
Yeah.
look like I'm gonna look like I don't want to disparage anything, because everybody's doing their thing and there's a spot for everybody. We're just one piece of the pie. But yeah, so we also had that in there, which again, I got way too big for my britches and thought I could do anything. And so yeah, so we were trucking along and then COVID hit, and then
Oh
just the
my
whole fucking world got lit on
So
fire.
when COVID hit, how many
Yes.
you had 4
We
studios or
had
you had
4. Yeah,
5?
no, we closed the lab after a
The
year
lab.
because we're like,
Okay.
we gave it our best, but
Okay.
that's not our jam. That's not our sweet
Okay.
spot. There's a
So you
lot of
had
people
4
making.
studios and then COVID hit.
We had 4 studios. Yep. And COVID hit. And I don't know if you even remember, because for me, everything before March of 2020, total blackout.
Yeah.
But in March of 2020, Seattle was the epicenter. Seattle was like where COVID first hit.
Oh,
Remember?
yeah.
So it was like we remember those 4
Forgot
days
that.
like crystal fucking clear. Like it
Mhm.
was like, okay, so we're gonna do this on Thursday. We're gonna take all the weights off when we're gonna clean and we're gonna do this. And then like it was critical comms every day. It was like, oh God, Friday, we're doing this, we're doing that. Okay, we're limiting
Mm.
class sizes. Saturday, we're doing this. And then we're like Sunday, we're shut. We're done. And I believe that was March 13th. And we were online on March 14th. So we closed all
Wow.
4 of our studios, and I was like, "Fuck it, let's go." Because in 2015, we knew we wanted to expand our community, because just the way that we operate, we've always been. Again, it's a lot to do with how I was raised, but you don't just come in and open your doors and then say hashtag community. Like if you're going to be a part of a city or a part of a community, you've got to serve, you've got to embrace it. It's a bear hug. Like you got to do more than just be a business, in my humble opinion. And
Mm.
so we've always done things to try to embrace and bring together people in our respective cities. And so in 2015, we started something called Burn Movement, MVMT, which is just sort of like our version of an off the bike beat based workout that gets people amped and brings them together. And so for years we've been doing this off the bike beat based workout, um, that we would throw these events and we would donate 100% of the proceeds and profits. And there'd be like anywhere from 500 people to 100 to 50, wherever we would do it, whatever the theme would be. And so when we shut down and we were like, all right, fuck it, Burn Movements are going online in 24 hours. And so literally the next Monday at like 10 a.m., we did our first online burn movement, and then we didn't stop. We moved into streaming and rented our bikes and did all the scrappy things that most small businesses did. But at a certain point, we came to this super sad realization that it was going to take so much to rebuild and so much energy on top of the financial capital, the human capital that it was going to require to pull us out of this, because human behavior changed so much, was going to be more than I could do from a different city. And so I made the brutal decision to close our Seattle locations. And they didn't even get a shot, man. They only, it was only 2 years, and they were so beautiful. They were just these gorgeous spaces full of these fucking gorgeous souls. And it was so heartbreaking to know that we were this space and this place for so many people. But I knew that you know what, it's not that we wanted to close, it's that we couldn't open and keep our brand promise. And to me, it was more than business, it was integrity. And so, it was super sad. But then anyways, you got to stop me or I will just fucking talk. Don't sit next to me.
I don't want to though. It's such an interesting story. And it's also I think it's important. It's important for me to have stories like that on the podcast as well, because I think, I always try my hardest to make sure everyone's business is still thriving and giving all the tips that I can and doing all the things I can. But it's I also realize at the end of the day, how many people that were just giving it their all that just still couldn't sustain. And I think it's important so people just, don't really feel alone. There are people that this is what happened. And I think this story is so incredibly important. So yeah.
Can I just, to anyone out there that has had to close locations or has had to close a business, it's such a hit to your ego, because there was also this mindset of survival of the fittest for small businesses. And I even judged restaurants in Portland that closed right away. And I was like, they gave up. And then as you got into it longer and longer, you're like, how much of my fucking one God-given life am I willing to sacrifice for this thing, for this, my peace of mind, my mental health, and I don't just mean mental health. I mean, if you own a small business in COVID, let alone a gym, it's the fucking depths, right? You're like, I'm a failure. The shame, the suffering that you feel because you've let all these people down. It's too much. It's too much. And after I closed Seattle and I started to look at the other business that closed, I was like, they'll do something else. That energy will build back up. But they made a fucking survivor. That's a survival tactic.
Yeah.
And I respect it because they're playing the long game.
Yeah.
And that's because there's a seed of them believing in themselves that there is something after this, that we finally succumb to the fucking pressure and the thing.
Yeah.
And so with so much of that hustle, grind, scale mentality, I have so much respect for people that they close down, because I think a lot of us are willing to start over, which there's more strength in that, I think, than holding onto something that's not going to work. And so
100%.
anyways,
100%.
Yes. Okay. Yes.
All right. So
okay.
You
Yes.
then then you had your 2 studios in Portland.
We did. Yeah. And we have a different challenge out here because we're the third most locked down state in the country. We've only actually had, in 2 years, we only actually had 6 weeks without masks. So we've had an indoor mask mandate essentially the entire time. Yeah. And our second location being out in the burbs, we opened it temporarily, and it was fucking tragic. It was brutal. Because just demographically, business speaking, people that have garages built gyms. People that live out in that particular suburb can afford Pelotons. Those people are not, they've got kids at home. Nobody's like, what I want to do? We're move to the burbs for the restaurants. No, you move out here because you have kids. And so then our schools weren't open. And so we were like, it's going to work. We're like, this is not going to fucking work. This is not working. And again, we just kept going back to that. It's not that we want to close, but it's that we can't open and provide the quality of product that matters to us. And we're not going to do this if it doesn't matter, because that's not who any of us are. We're not phoning it in. We're not just people demonstrating fitness. We are pouring our souls into every class and every human. And so it's not it's not just about filling classes. It's about making sure that we're full so that we can sustainably give.
Mhm.
Otherwise, we're going to burn out real quick, and then the whole thing is going to implode. So
Yeah.
then we made the heartbreaking choice to. I laugh only because I'm like, are you like what the actual?
Yeah.
When I think about it, we made the heartbreaking choice to close um, our Burbs location, and so now we're down to the one, the original, the flagship, and it's a really interesting mental space to be in because while I'm deeply sad about the loss of the humans and the community, I have the realization that this is what I always wanted. I never wanted to scale. I've never been a quantity over quality person. I want better, not more. And that is really hard to scale. And I know people do it. Danny Meyer is like one of my idols. All of his books are like always out on my shelves. I think what he's done is incredible, but I gotta have a business with soul, like
Mhm.
the human element. And that's really hard to scale. And so now that we're down to this one location, I'm like, you know what we should do? And then we can do it.
Mhm.
And that isn't so I can be creative again, and we can sort of get back to that really tight knit feel. And well, it's super sad that we lost our footprint, and obviously there's debt that came with closing those studios. It is not ideal, but I will say where we are now is a really interesting like full circle place to be in, where you're like, motherfucker, I
Mhm.
just would have done this.
Yeah.
I just would have.
Yeah.
Right, the egos what is that quote? It's like the ego is always speaks loudest and first, and the soul whispers, and the
Yeah.
whole time your ego's like, "Bigger, go, scale, success," and then the whole time it's like, "I don't think you wanna do this. I think
Yeah.
you just wanna connect with humans." Also, financially
Oh,
speaking,
God.
if I just would have kept to one studio, I could have done so much more. Like I could have. It's really interesting to look at because I just took every penny that we made and poured it back into the business.
Mhm.
And so I'm always like, man, guys, if we would have had one location, I would have taken everybody on a cruise. This would have been
Right.
great, which is what everybody does not want. But God,
I mean, what a freaking story.
it
Like,
is
I just
wild.
what a freaking story. I just oh my God. It's like it's true though. It's everyone just thinks like more locations, better, bigger, more locations, like keep going. And it is such a toxic mentality. It's especially when human beings are the product, which they are in fitness. Like you need your instructor is your product, and that's a human being. And it's like
Oh, that is what we have always said.
to scale that and to just like get rid of the heart is just it's such an interesting thing to look at of like why do we need to do that?
And
Like
the
why?
it's so, there's so many different ways you can, I think it's like to define success, most people would say like you want this big thing, and it takes, I think, such a strong courageous person to say, actually, for me, success is significance, or success is impact. But that impact, that means it has to matter that you changed one person's life who is going through a really hard time, as much as like, all the lives. Because like when you're at a position where you've got like hundreds of thousands of clients, are you really hearing their story? Do you even have the capacity to take in? Do you change the trajectory of an entire fucking life?
Right.
Or are you like, oh yeah, yeah, we changed our lives, hashtag changed lives,
Right. Yeah.
yeah, it's and then obviously I'm speaking theoretically about scaling, but just the business side of scaling, man, when people come to me and they talk to me about it, I'm just like, hola, 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 hola. Let's break this down. What kind of life do you want? Because I need you to be very aware that if you're going to try to commoditize human energy, because humans are our product, what is the
Mhm.
single biggest thing that every business owner is drained by is humans. I can do the finances all day. I can run ops all day. Marketing, no problem. But like the single biggest thing that keeps entrepreneurs awake at night is your people.
Mhm.
And our inventory is not celery, right? I'm not out there buying
Yep.
bulk lumber. You've got
Yep.
to fucking keep humans engaged and energized, and not just any humans,
Yeah.
humans that then have to go inspire and motivate and physically put themselves out there. And so it's a if you really, I guess, yeah, care about the quality, it's actually a big ask, because then I have 3 kids and then I have 17 other kids that
Right.
that need my nurturing and snacks.
Yeah. It's so interesting. And, 'cause, I've been super lucky in my career. I got to work for Lululemon in 2013 and SoulCycle in 2017. And like the way that the both of those companies scaled in their
Mm,
time,
mhm,
to me, it was very different. Lululemon was very they cared about the human experience a lot and they made it known. And there was like a lot, obviously, things have changed since they've gotten bigger and bigger and bigger. But when I was there, scaling was done still with heart. And
mm, mhm,
it's I'll never forget. I think much like you watching your dad, always still prioritizing that. Like I will never forget or take advantage of how lucky I was. My first job was at a heart-centered at a
mm,
company that made it
mhm,
known that they care about me as a human being. I will
mhm.
never, because I did take it for granted. And then I looked at what everyone else was going through, what all my friends were going through their corporate jobs. And I was like, oh shit, that's not good. That's not what I want.
Yeah, yeah,
Like,
right?
it's important, I think, to just be able to take that with you. So I think that's, oh my God, this is just such an amazing story.
Oh, thanks. I forget about it a lot because it's just I don't know any different. But it is interesting. I feel like you and I we were both came into this right at the boom.
Mm-hmm.
And so we've
Mm-hmm.
watched the evolution of it all and had
Mm-hmm.
two very different experiences on on the ground, the scrappy small business side of it. And but we look to Soul Cycle, we look to Lululemon, and we look to we for one never wanted to operate like a mom and pop company. Again, I think it's part of just how I was raised, but like we always wanted to. I just have super high standards as a
Mm-hmm.
human, and
Mm-hmm.
yeah, that's a good and a bad thing.
Yeah.
But we want to do it right. But then at a certain point, you start to look at that and you're like, now I'm looking at these large companies for what I don't want and how I don't want to be like this. And that when you're like, oh,
Yep.
I mean, you got to pay respect where respect is due for giving impetus to ideas and helping, you know, I mean, I wholeheartedly believe that SoulCycle and Lululemon really gave way for a massive boutique fitness boom. Like they,
100%.
like those two,
Yeah.
and I feel, again, where they are now, I think we could all be like, well, hold on, Lululemon, did you really just fucking invest in Mirror? Did you just stick it to us like that?
Oh, not
Sorry.
invest, purchase.
Purchase. That's right. There
Purchase.
was an acquisition.
Literally said, we're going to take that company. Thanks.
Yeah. Eat a
Yeah.
fucking bag of, sorry, Lululemon. I love you. I love your
Yeah.
pants. The only reason my ass isn't on the back of my knees as a mother of three. Love to say it's solely my workout. It's definitely your pants. But
No,
yeah,
but it's true. And I always say, like I think Soul Cycle is a really good example at not taking for granted what got you to where you are in the first
yeah,
place.
100%.
The grassroots community building, amazing efforts that started the company sort of fell away. And I think it is just always an important thing to look at and,
It's
consider.
it's an interesting thing too to like and obviously I still love Lululemon, but I also love my husband and I get pissed at him when he doesn't load the dishwasher correctly. So I just like accountability. So I don't mean to disparage them at all, but I will say it's interesting when you look at something like fitness, and I may be biased because I am from Portland. So like chains just don't work in Portland. They
Mhm.
come and they leave. Restaurants, gyms, chains don't work in Portland. We are like hand, made, high touch, like tailor
Yeah.
made, anything less. No.
Yeah.
So we are our own anomaly in this city, but you look at other things at scale and it's great, and then again, I say this with the total self-awareness of being biased, but you don't see a lot of, I feel like, scaled fitness brands, like a bunch of these huge franchises where
Mhm.
people are like, I'm super fucking proud of this brand and people love to go to their gyms and they post their Orange Theory stuff, but I don't know what, you don't see people out there being like, I know what Orange Theory stands for, and I'm gonna, again, I feel like I really don't want to
Mhm.
disparage any brands or any places where people
Yeah.
work,
No, I get it though.
and the local owners that buy those,
Mhm.
but people that do have like I think I'm more speaking to the very small pinhole of people that are have these studios and then they want to franchise them, or have
Mhm.
these locations and they want to franchise them because that's what they think success is. And you're like,
Mhm.
you know, I don't know.
Yeah.
I guess you know what? Fuck it. Some people want that. Some people are just like, I just want to be everywhere.
Want to get in and out.
I want to
Yeah.
be just ubiquitous. I want
Yeah.
to be everywhere.
Yeah.
So you do you, and I'll do me. Just like fucking external processing with no filter. Just edit this whole part out.
Okay, we're gonna get into rapid fire questions, but
Yeah. Okay, I'm ready.
before we do,
Okay. Yes.
One piece of advice for studio owners or small business owners right now.
Be it treacherous, traumatic, collectively traumatic, and like the enormous amount of pain and suffering and stress that we all just went through, we've been handed on a platter an opportunity to reprioritize how we want to live our life, not just the business that we want to run.
Mm-hmm.
So this has been an opportunity, again, deeply painful for a lot of us, but I know that I got some real healthy boundaries from this experience. I am not on all the time. You cannot reach me at every hour of the day. That's not, I think weak boundaries are just an invitation for disrespect. And whether people have the best of intentions, I've got 3 kids. So texting me at 2 a.m. doesn't work. Or like calling me at 5 o'clock because you don't feel good, 5 a.m., that stuff doesn't work. Like, so it's an interesting, it's challenging, but I also think it's an opportunity to work smarter, not harder, to really prioritize. Again, when you own a small business, it is a part of your identity. It's part of who you are. And so you have to figure out the life that you want, because if you don't, then that business is going to take over just as much as parenting could, or, for some of us, me, take over more. I prioritize my business far more than I did my family for a very long time. And so I just think that we're not going to get this chance again. So the foundation that we lay now is what's going to be for the next chapter, whatever this looks like. And knock on wood, we don't have another one of these, but no, there's no hard feelings when you're like, I'm sorry, I don't have the capacity to do that anymore. Everybody understands, like emotional exhaustion and moral languish. Lay it on. All of us have it. And so I think you got to protect yourself and protect your heart so that you can be the leader that you want to be, instead of this burnt out, business owner that always wishes you had better priorities. So real long-winded, Alexa, real long-winded.
That is A-okay. All right. Should we do rapid fire questions?
Yes, I'm ready. I'm
Okay.
so ready.
What is your absolute favorite song to work out to? Number 1.
Oh, fuck. I was gonna say Tony Braxton, but that's not true. I just have been on a kick lately. God, I don't think I have a favorite song.
Okay.
I don't think
Tony
I have.
Braxton, though. Let's go with that. I love it.
And Tony Braxton, again, leaning into 40, really leaning into it. I don't think I have a favorite song. It's just got to be bangers, or I'm like, or just lay down. I'll literally just lay down at the gym. I'll be like, I don't want to do this. So it's got to be all bangers, actually, which is not Tony Braxton. But I've also been trying to do a little more nurturing workouts, and Tony Braxton really nurtures my soul, and so helping me slow down a little, balance.
I love it. Right. Software that you cannot live without.
This is how fucking archaic and I am, is I'm like, you said software and all I thought about was my soft sheets, because I hate everything digital. I just got those new linen sheets at Target. Sorry, I know it's a real high-low in our family. My husband wants the design within reach sheets, and I'm like, but this thing at Target is so good. Software that I can't live without. You're stumping me on these specifics.
What do you use every day in your business?
I mean, we use MindBody. I could live without it. I could very easily live. I love them.
That's fair.
But,
That's
oh
fair.
my God, it's a new update and a thing and a stuff. I don't know. We just, God, that's so interesting. I don't know.
That's kind of a good answer, though.
What do other people say?
Like Zoom.
I don't need. Yeah. Okay. All right. Okay. Zoom. Yeah.
The iPhone. bunch of people just say iPhone.
See, and I'm like
Um,
any vacation we go on, I deliberately find a place that doesn't have Wi-Fi in like the middle of the woods. My children hate me because I just want my phone away for a week.
I like that
Um,
though. Your answer
yeah,
is none. You can live without any software.
I think if any one thing disappeared for a week, I'd feel relieved. Then I don't have to think about Spotify. I don't have to think about Vimeo. I don't have to think about Mindbody, Google. I mean, you know, I don't
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
I don't
I
know.
love it. That's your
I
answer.
don't rely on a lot of software, so it's a functionality thing, but it's not the main story.
Yeah.
So,
If you could live anywhere in the world that is not Portland, where would it be?
ooh, probably a small mountain town like Sun Valley or Bend or like,
Mm,
you know, I don't know, just a small mountain town. The mountains are just so
mhm.
humbling to me
I
and
love that.
so righteous. That's my cathedral. That's my
Mhm.
church.
Mhm.
So just the peace that snow brings, like that deafening silence that snow brings, and they're just
Mhm.
clearly the opposite of who I am and what I do, but it's so much of what I crave. It's just that deep sense of peace. So
I love that.
yeah.
What
Yeah.
is advice that you would give to your younger self?
Everything that you're ashamed of and embarrassed about is gonna be the gift that you have to give.
Mm,
So people with my level of energy, they're really challenging kids. Obviously,
mhm.
I've got one. He's fucking insane. He's a psycho, but he's my psycho. Um, and it's just the world doesn't know what to do with people that have this much.
Mhm.
And I'm sure as a woman, don't take up too much space. Don't be too
Mhm.
much. Don't be
Mhm.
too much. How many times have you had to hit the pillow and you're like, oh, I was too much?
Yeah.
And so I'm still working on embracing it. Still working on embracing that. But that was a harrowing part of growing up, was just
Mhm.
really having a lot of shame for just who I was naturally,
Mhm. Yeah.
and trying to really control that, and then
Yeah.
backfired. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Dream job besides what you're doing right now.
Oh, cruise director. I would fucking
What?
crush. I would crush being a cruise director.
This is
Like,
my favorite question ever because
oh
the
yeah.
weird stuff I've gotten back is shocking. I've had like master instructors at Peloton be like, I want to be a Spanish tutor. And I'm like, you can.
Yes.
What? Like,
Yes. Yes. Well, like, okay, so like I said, I had a whole career before this. I was a producer before this. And I've watched my dad's mom and dad start all these businesses. So chapters, that's the way life, that's what you do in life. You have chapters. And my dad's retirement plan is to work at Home Depot, and because he just wants to be like the old guy, and then on the weekends be the guy in the ski parking lot that like tells you where to park, so you only have to work till 9 and then you go ski. And so I was always like, oh cool, okay, so you have jobs for when you're old. And I'm like, I'm going to be the social director at a retirement home,
okay.
or I'm going to be a cruise director. I just want to
I
be
love it.
I want to be the cruise director that wears like a monochromatic like suit or outfit that's like, hey everyone, meet me on the Lido deck for champagne in 15. Woohoo! Where you just like bop around and you're like, hey Claire, love those pants today. I'm gonna see you for ping pong at 3. Like I just want to be, oh fuck, the stakes would be like so low, but
Oh
the
my God.
the fun would be so high. I love cheap thrills. I like, give me pop rocks any day. Any
I
day. I
love
love
that. I'm
it.
gonna go
Yeah.
on that cruise for sure.
Yes.
Um,
Yes.
all right, I'm gonna leave it at that because the last question was one lesson that you took from the last 2 years, and we got it. And I think it is listen to your soul and not your ego.
Fuck. For real. For reals. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah,
Oh
okay. I
God.
feel like we covered so much.
We
Thank you
covered
so
so
much.
much. Jessi, where can people find you and how can they take class, whether they're in
Mm.
Portland or not?
Yeah, you can go to burn-cycle.com. We have our streaming on there. You can also go on there and take our burn movement classes, which we have a whole digital library of those. You can find me on Instagram. I'm at Mrs. Duley, and I have like so many ways. The Reckless Optimist is my side hustle. It's this other thing that I do I think the world needs to hear more stories of optimism, especially right now. And my mom coined the term reckless optimist when I was a kid, because evidently if you'd put me in a helmet, I would do anything. Not a lot has changed either, except my insurance premiums. But Yeah, you can follow us on social, Burn Cycle PDX, or Mrs. Dooley is me personally, and then burn-cycle.com. We've got all of our classes online there. And then if you're in Portland, you got to come in. The in-studio experience is the jam. And when you come in, we're literally like, oh, have you eaten here yet? Have you had drinks here yet? Have you shopped here yet? We're like, you literally come in and we're like your tour guide of Portland, but that's also kind of Portland by nature. But yes.
Thank you
Yeah.
so much. This was amazing. And I will
Thank
talk to you soon.
you. What a gift. Okay. All right. Wait,
Oh my
do I
God.
like